Sir Geoffrey Ingram Taylor, aka our main man G.I. was a British physicist and mathematician, better known for his major contributions and experiments in fluid dynamics and wave theory. During his career, he was especially intrigued by the phenomena created by laminar flow, a liquid flow regime characterized by high momentum diffusion and low momentum convection, where the flow is smooth and regular. He spent quite some time experimenting with the formation of thin flat sheets of water, which led to further research in water bells and waves and disintegration of fluid sheets. For our final project, we decided to focus on this phenomena of a creation of thin flat sheets of water. When two equal cylindrical coplanar laminar flow water jets collide, they form an expanding thin flat sheet of water in the plane at the right angles to the plane containing their axes. The sheet bisects the angle between the two streams. If the streams are coaxial, then the sheet formed is symmetrical and flat. If the jets are coplanar but not coaxial, then the sheet formed is not symmetrical, but it's still flat. The thin flat sheet of water expands radially from the region of collision and extends furthest in the direction of the velocity.
It is important that our outflow be relatively high Reynolds number laminar flow. The lateral spread of water that forms the thin flat sheets is a function of the high pressure at the point of fluid-jet collision. The surface tension and the inertia of fluid in a laminar flow regime creates the smooth, consistent shape of the thin flat sheet. Thus, to achieve our phenomena, it is critical to balance maximizing fluid momentum and minimizing turbulence.
The design criteria we had for our apparatus were to source sufficient head pressure, have a flow regulation mechanism, to be able to precisely and symmetrically adjust the nozzle angles, and to finish the fluid path with laminar flow. The flow regulation was through inline ball valves that let us tune the head pressure into our nozzle until we could visualize our phenomena. Our device allowed for easy angle adjustment that kept the outlet point fixed in space and both nozzles symmetric about the vertical axis. To produce laminar flow, we created special nozzles consisting of an aluminum tube, coffee stirrers, Scotch-Brite mesh, and a custom Delrin cap that reduced the diameter according to G.I. Taylor's experiments.
Measuring the outflow rate of the system allows us to calculate the fluid velocities throughout the system and understand how each component is contributing to the laminar streamlines by calculating the Reynolds numbers. We ignored pressure losses leading up to the nozzle as we had smooth, 1-inch outer diameter plastic tubing without sharp bends or breaks. The nozzle had stepped this down to a final 2 mm diameter. Initially, with just a bare aluminum tube and our Delrin nozzles, we noticed the lack of visually smooth flow nor the appearance of our phenomena. We calculated a Reynolds number of 3,000 at the tip, which is right in the transition zone between laminar and turbulent regimes. To induce laminar flow, we decided to put coffee stirrers and Scotch-Brite in the nozzle head to decrease the velocity and straighten the streamlines exiting the largest diameter section of the system. Using Darcy's law for flow through a porous media, we calculated that the Reynolds number of 32 before the Scotch-Brite was reduced to a Reynolds number of 8 after passing through the Scotch-Brite. After exiting the final 2 mm diameter section, the Reynolds number was 1494. Our COMSOL model is an axisymmetric simulation using a sketch that mimicked the inside curvature of our nozzle. We assumed that the inflow velocity was completely laminar and that there was no slip at the walls. We can see that the velocity increases towards the center of our nozzle as the diameter shrinks. By looking at the nature of the streamlines in the model, we can clearly see that the flow stays within the laminar regime as it passes through the conical section of the nozzle. As the COMSOL simulation did not include the coffee stirrers nor the Scotch-Brite, we can confirm that our device also produced laminar flow.
To confirm the success of our apparatus, we compared the sheet profiles of different jet angles to those produced by G.I. Taylor's experiments. G.I. Taylor begins his paper discussing the symmetrical sheet profile formed by collinear laminar jets, and while he doesn't have an experimental image to compare to, we decided to test our device in this configuration because of the real-world applications we found of this setup.
Have it your way. Have it
Equal cylindrical coplanar laminar flow.
So what's the point of studying this phenomena of thin flat sheets? Well, recently, this phenomena enabled scientists to examine tiny biological samples in the human body and other high water environments. When scientists try to examine microscopic biological samples with certain wavelengths of light, they are not able to observe them in their natural watery environments because water absorbs a large spectrum of light. Studying these samples in water is important, however, because biological processes interact with water. A team of scientists at the Department of Energy's SLAC National Accelerator Laboratory was able to solve this problem by forming thin, flat sheets with a thickness of 100 water molecules that are stable for days in a vacuum chamber. They formed the sheets similar to G.I. Taylor, but on a much smaller scale. Because the sheets of water are so thin, they can shoot X-rays into the sample with little interference from the water. The new method opens new windows on critical processes in chemistry, physics, and biology, including the nature of water itself. Thanks, G.I.